Welcome al podcast de Palante Nonprofits.
Bienvenidos a todos and welcome back to the Palante Nonprofits podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Andrea Ortega, and I'm super excited because I have someone very special to me. Dr. Maritza Concha. I got the pleasure of meeting her a couple years back during my journey at the University of Central Florida. And one of my favorite things about Dr. Concha is that she is a girl's girl. She is a proud Latina. Has been such a huge support system during my academic journey. And her and Dr. White Jones, which hopefully we have her one day here, were really integral into me getting my PhD. And aside from that, when I was laid off of my Tech for Good job, which you guys have heard me talk about in my podcast, I remember calling her and I remember her being like, "Great, I have jobs for you." And I will forever be thankful to how she has championed for me, how she champions for nonprofits across all of Central Florida, because how lucky am I that I got to work during those couple months with capacity building in for organizations here in Central Florida. And Dr. Concha is a lecturer and expert in nonprofit management. And the past couple years with AI, she has been dedicating and done a huge a shift there into making sure that she learns everything she can about AI and the powerful tool that it can be for social good. I'm so excited to have that conversation with her porque ella es magnificent. And before we start with our questions, Dr. Concha, can you introduce yourself
Sure.
and include a little bit about your background? De donde vienes, like tell us things that, maybe I don't even know, and to connect with our listeners.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Andrea, Dr. Ortega, for inviting me. It means a lot to me. This is the first time I'm doing a podcast live, so I hope that I do well. I was born and raised in Perú, and yo vine aquí en 1993 cuando tenía 16 años, and with my parents and my two brothers. So I got here from Lima to Miami, and it was a very interesting transition. I did not speak a word in English. I went to a French school in Lima. So I had the French accent very immersed in me in how I spoke, or it was very strange. In reality, English should be my third language, not my second language. But when I came here, completely forgot about French. Although when I traveled to France a few years ago, there's something in your brain that kicks, and
Love that.
and it's sort of like, well, I kind of like remember a few words. I was able to just talk the basics, but I was able to communicate and express. So my husband was like, "Okay, what are they saying? Can I, order this? Can I order that?" So I was able to do that stuff. But yeah, so that's pretty much a little bit of me. I love Peruvian food.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites, specifically my mom's food. Honestly, she's the best one. And so I've been doing a lot of capacity building and evaluations for nonprofit organizations for the last 20 years. Started with nonprofits in Homestead, Florida, that provide services to victims or survivors of domestic violence, specifically the farm workers population there. So back in 1998, 2000, that's how I started with a colleague of mine, and we created Colbian Consulting, which was my first step to help out nonprofits in getting their data and documenting the wonderful work that they do to, promote social change and community change, which is very
I
important.
didn't know that.
Yeah, so that you learn something new. And I've been teaching at UCF for the last 5 years. Since 2019, full time, I was the director for the Center for Public and Nonprofit Management for 3 years. And now I can happily share that I am the lead for the Apply AI Innovation Initiative. So that's an initiative I created to promote the involvement or the use of AI for community and behavioral interventions.
Yes, I love that. And first of all, I didn't even know that that's where you started. So thank you so much for sharing. Creo que es súper importante. La verdad es que no he tenido muchas historias de aquí de migrantes así como yo. So me siento muy honored to have you here today porque la verdad es que yo llegué fue a los 8 años y even a esa edad, like, me acuerdo decirle a mi mamá, like, yo no entendía ni papa, ni pollo, ni perro. Like, yo no entendía y también, pues, creciendo, like, my parents didn't speak English. Teníamos que traducirle, you know, like, the menu, like, qué podían cenar, qué podían todo eso, and, like,
Going to the doctor and being like a 16-year-old translator when you go to the doctor, that may be not a good advice, quite honestly, because we were minors, so we don't know much about what's going on with the medical field.
oh my God.
But yeah,
I didn't even remember that. But yeah, you end up pediatrician and having to translate everything. That makes so much sense. But aside from that, now we're both doctors. And you paved the way for me to get my PhD. So I'm forever thankful for you. And I'm so super excited because when, you know, the AI definitely, like, when it launched, right, in 2022, like, ChatGPT became this thing.
the same way.
Como muchas cosas que pasan y que cambian, you know, when Google was invented and when it became a thing, like, it transformed the way people worked, the way people studied, the way people did things. And I think ChatGPT came to do that. And there's a lot of places, academics or even corporate, that if you don't learn to implement it, you're going to fall behind.
Exactly.
And you said, I'm going to learn this, right?
I'm gonna learn. The thing with me is that I really like technology and I want to be up to speed. And where that technology is, I think that you just need to adapt. Do not resist it. Adapt and see whatever you can do to fit with your passion and what you're doing with your field, right? Study or, if you're a practitioner or if you are, an economist, a nurse, it doesn't matter what background you have. It is something that you can even apply in every day.
Yeah.
So if you have ever think that AI is something difficult, if you have an iPhone or if you have, an Android, you've been using AI for a long time with Siri, with Alexa, through Amazon. That's the beginning of it. So that's the beginning of having a chatbot on your cell phone, or, like Siri plays this music or Siri calls somebody, right? So it's already been there. So it's not really something new, but technology is going very fast and there's so many different apps and things that we can utilize to increase our productivity, but also reduce our time that we put into, so we can dedicate our time to other things that the technology can do it for us.
Oh my God, I love that. And I did have the pleasure of attending one of your presentations on and that was really cool. But let's jump into our questions. So AI is definitely sometimes associated with big businesses, big processes. People are intimidated, especially in our sector, with technology. Can you tell me a little bit about how you identified the role that it's going to play in nonprofits and why you're so committed to it?
Yeah, so I think that the role of AIs for the nonprofit sector, we need to talk within the areas of nonprofit management, for instance, right? And how we can utilize AI specifically maybe for marketing or for, social marketing efforts, right? So there are so many applications that you can use to converge from text to image, from text to videos, have different types of subtitles. If you have a community that speaks different languages, then you can definitely utilize the interpreter or translation services from an AI, app, and then have them automatically done. So it's something that it's like I said to all my students and my training participants, don't be scared to jump in. Most of the apps that we are seeing have a free account, so you don't have to spend money right away. One of the things that I strongly recommend, that if you're using a free subscription, for instance, one of the things that you need to be very careful is that some of the information that you put into this may be feeding the algorithm. So please do not share confidential information or things you don't want to be out there. So, for instance, you can Google something about yourself that you didn't want to share, and then suddenly that information is available in ChatGPT or or Claude or Perplexity, which are the applications that I mostly use.
Oh my God, imagínate. I didn't know that. That's really great practical information. And I wanna I'm a huge fan of ChatGPT. I pay for it and I try to turn off all the privacy settings and all that stuff. Pero you mentioned apps, like AI is now in so many other apps.
Oh, yeah. Now you have so many
And I
things.
know you mentioned in the presentation we were at that you used it to create the presentation.
Exactly. So, for instance, if you want to have a very innovative, engaging presentation, I use Gamma AI. So, Gamma AI has a free subscription of probably you can use it maybe once or twice a month, but I strongly recommend all of you to, if you have the money, to go ahead and do the basic subscription. What it does is that it helps you create PowerPoint presentations that are entertaining, that are engaging, but it still is your content. So there are two ways of doing this. One in the prompt. So that's another thing. You have to become a pro in prompting or engineering prompting, which is to tell AI what you want to do, right? So instead of, and that kind of like brings my evaluator hat on it because it's not something vague. It has to be measurable. It has to be, you have to give them like the tone that you want, the presentation, the topic, the length of the topic, areas in which are the most recurring or the most important. Maybe like give them 10 to 12 slides so the AI will know specifically what you're looking for, right? So those are some of my my recommendations. Start practicing prompts because if you do the prompts that are very abstract, that's what you're gonna get from AI, and it's not gonna be useful.
And you get a lot of misinformation because AI will try to fill in the holes and will sometimes make things up.
Exactly.
And so I will say becoming a prompt engineer, I didn't even know that was a word. I love that. It's super important. And when I often get asked like, well, why do I need to hire a consultant for strategic planning? I can just tell ChatGPT to write a strategic plan. You absolutely can. And it's not going to spit out what you need because I'm the one who knows what to ask.
Correct.
I probably will use ChatGPT to help, but after we do an organizational assessment, after we know what your needs are, and after we're able to tell, the bot, like these are the areas you need to be specific, the measurable part, it's just gonna make up measures that you probably don't even have in your organization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what you can do is like I use AI to generate ideas.
Yeah.
That's the best advice that I can give everybody, to generate ideas. I think one of the things you have to be very, very careful is that it's not, if you just tell AI to do a strategic planning or SWOT analysis, it's going to give you something very genetic, like what you were saying, that is not aligned with their mission. However, if you have a paid subscription and you have your own SWOT analysis, you can submit that SWOT analysis knowing and let them know what your mission is. And then it's going to give you some very good feedback.
Yes.
So that's another level, right? But definitely that's one of the things that I will recommend to all the listeners here.
Yeah, so you actually touched on a lot of our questions. So before I go deeper into one, can you tell me how the Applied Innovation Lab, like what are your hopes to do with that?
Oh my God. So I'm so excited about this initiative. I think it opens the door for so many things. And coming from a nonprofit management field and background and getting into AI, it's not an easy thing. I started to play around with AI more with my field of study and specifically with community participatory action research. So I did a couple of focus groups last years with farm workers in Immokalee and Mayaca, which is the east part of Florida. And I wanted to see how hurricanes or natural disasters have affected their lives, specifically with renting their trailers, and to see what outcomes have come after the disaster and what is their current situation, right, based on the services that they receive or the assistance they receive. So I created or co-developed this entire project with a community advisory board because I wanted the community to be part of this, every single aspect of it, right? So the next step was that I co-facilitated the 4 focus groups with the community members, with community advisory board members. And then after that, we co-analyze the themes that came from the focus groups. So we got together and I use AI to generate pictures that will help us assimilate more the themes that came from the focus groups. So that was step 3. Step 4 had to do with how we can create, based on those images, as 2 stories and create some sort of like an intervention so we can educate farm workers of what they have gone through and then what things they can do to better prepare before, during, and after
And
hurricane.
was this a cartoon?
That's the cartoon.
I tell people about that all the time.
Yeah, that's the
Can you
cartoon.
share with the audience what the cartoon was?
Yeah, it is a graphic novel, and it's sort of like for all our folks in Latin America, it's or Spanish speaking, like Condorito, like those comiquitas, like those down in the days, back in the days in when we used to do, like those comics for La Pequeña Lulu or Mafalda, Matilde. I think Mafalda, Matilde. I don't even remember, from Argentina.
Condorito sí lo conozco.
Condorito. Anyway, so I wanted to do something that the community actually could use it, but it's also representing what the story that the community has allowed us to document. So after creating all those, the stories with the images, I came back home and I decided to see what can I do using AI to create that comic style storytelling.
Yes.
So I use Llama AI, which is very expensive. I have to subscribe. But it was amazing. I mean, I had the story written in my WordPad, and I started to convert the story into prompts.
Yes.
So it has like maybe 12 to 14 pictures telling the story, but each picture has their own prompt.
Yeah.
So the good part is that it tells you a cohesive story based on research. Once again, this is not that I ended up doing something because out of nowhere I wanted to create a comic. It's based on research. So so that's one of the things I did. But the most important thing is playing with prompts, because AI had something very unique. I was telling AI how I wanted the character to look like, because even that particular scenario, that particular piece came from the community. They pretty much told me, I want someone that looks like me, someone that works in the field, someone that, and when I say that, physically looking like them. So they went and they gave me specific details. So it was very specific when I was writing the prompts. But guess what? The AI turned out that every time I had this character called Carmen, I was telling AI to have Carmen very conservative looking, with her husband and the 2 kids, and kept giving me Carmen, very sexy Carmen, for some reason. And I was thinking, where in the prompt says sexy? Like, I'm trying to say conservative with the same, with the, maybe a long dress, but then it ended up having a short dress afterwards.
Yeah.
So you have to play around until you get what you want. It's not an easy thing to do, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then you have all the, I guess, the things that AI needs to get better, which is having a baby with 3 legs, 6 fingers, and then you still have to have a graphic designer to help you delete those extra additional body parts that AI doesn't do a good job with it.
Wow. Well, and people might not know this, but I've had the pleasure of putting together trainings and instructional design videos, and not just AI, but technology itself follows a lot of bias, stereotypes, and it's racist. Like, if you type "give me a woman leader," it'll probably give you a white woman. That's just the reality. Like, and I'm sure they want to be seen like, morenitos, the sun all day.
One actually wanted, like, they wanted like a trieño, morenito, but then another one was like, they were very specific. I wanted indigenous looking women.
I love that.
Indigenous looking women. So they even, it's like a little bit chubby with the name that has to be indigenous from, Mexico City. And the daughter, she's a single mom. So all the things that they could relate.
Absolutely.
So when I presented the graphic novels back to the community advisory board, they were like, bingo, you just did it. I see myself there. That's me.
did you measure like the success of the cartoons? Like how was the result and response of the community?
Not yet. We are in the process of getting it back to the community at this point because there were some delays with the funders, but we were able to get this approved
Oh my.
by the funder to be able to disseminate this with the nonprofits.
Well, and I wanted to bring up a good point because I don't get to talk about this often. We talk nonprofits a lot, but people don't really know that the reason I'm not in academia is because I'm a practitioner at heart. Because Dr. Concha, you just got your research to the people who need it the most.
Exactly.
And I struggle so much with writing academic articles, researches, and journals, like 2 journals that the people I care about are never going to read.
True.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, oh, okay, I get to help another academic professor with his research in the future in said university, but the people I want to help are on the ground doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a perfect example of how academia, like to me, can bridge the gap with the people who need it the most.
Exactly.
Because you took your research, you're presenting the results of your focus groups in this beautiful cartoon,
Mhm.
that you're giving back to them.
Exactly.
And sure, you'll write the journal and the article and whatever,
Yeah.
but like that's where I struggle a lot with academia. I want the people on the ground who actually need this information to be able to use it and access it. And so kudos to you for doing that,
Oh,
because that's so important. And I have a really deep love to the farm workers of Florida. It's interesting because my careers have both always overlapped with them. When I was at UF starting my journey, we would tutor the children of migrant workers at a church in Gainesville. And I learned a lot about their long days. They can't even ship off their kids to school because they're before dawn in the fields, and they would pick up their kids after the sun goes down in our tutoring. And there's a lot that we don't take in consideration about the sacrifices they made in our table. And and then I've had the pleasure to work with Jessica Ramirez, who runs the Farm Workers Association of Florida here, FWAF.
I need to actually.
She's, first of all, she's amazing, and she has a beautiful story. I need to get her on this podcast. She came here 10 years ago, and she started at FWAF as a campesina, and now has worked her way up to executive director of a 2 million plus organization.
Yeah.
And I get the chance to work with her, but like, I was very humbled because when I worked with her last year as a consultant, porque I'm like, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. She's like, Andrea, hold on, like my staff, some of them don't read and write.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
And I thought about that with the graphic novel, so we have a video.
I love that. And I was like, she literally manages the organization sometimes through voice notes. The way she makes directions, like the way she communicates with her team in different offices throughout Florida is like through WhatsApp voice notes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I have to rethink my whole strategy. But I learned a lot, and I was very humbled by like how she runs that organization. And it's not a small organization. They have 14,000 members registered with FWAB across the state of Florida. And so thinking about what you just said today, like they were heard, right? They were heard about how they wanted the information given to them. Porque qué pereza, like otro town hall meeting with white people telling indigenous people what to do, like.
Yeah, and it's one of the things that I wanted, because every time I use community participatory action research in the work that I do, is that we have research products. So apart from having the traditional reports, the manuscripts for the academic field, we give them something back, because I think this is the time that they put into to have a conversation with you, to complete your survey, to spend 2 or 3 hours answering all your questions, and they ended up with something very academic or something very technical that they will not open, they will not understand. So through this methodology, I think this is an excellent methodology that we can utilize using AI, because it gives you that opportunity to create this type of storytelling products that is going to go back to the community. They're going to be using it for preparing for a hurricane. And at the end of the graphic novel, you have a list of resources, local resources in Immaculate and Mayaca. They can actually look for if there is a hurricane going their way. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, and I'm very passionate about it. And one of the things that I wanted to share, that through AI, it took me 2 weeks to come up with the graphic novel.
I love that.
Only 2 weeks. I helped another colleague doing another comic book back in the days. This is like 10, 15 years ago. And it took them 6 months to do a graphic novel. So old school through photos and pictures. And they needed to have community actors. It was really it's a beautiful project that is still used these days to educate people on prevention for sexual assault or domestic violence. But once again, the whole product took a lot of time to develop.
Yeah, well,
And a lot of resources too.
and things, that are happening so rapidly, especially with going on with the political climate.
Yeah,
You need to get information out faster.
Faster.
Like I think this is a wonderful tool. So before we wrap up, and I'll definitely want you to share where they can find some of your research, maybe view the comic. I don't know if that's available for the public. But looking ahead, and how do you see AI, in the future of the nonprofit, the way they view impact, the way they engage with their donors? Like, what are some tips that you can give our nonprofits listening?
Sure. So to follow me, my initiative has a YouTube channel. It's called the Apply AI Innovation Initiative. Apply AI Innovation Initiative. So look for it in YouTube. We have a few videos for demonstration. One of them is with the graphic novel, so you can see a little bit more what it looks like. At this point, I'm not able to share it with the public, only with specific nonprofit organizations that participate in the study, but hopefully I can go ahead and get the green light to share with everybody else. But any feedback that I have or suggestions for using AI, don't be scared. Like, use the simple things like ChatGPT, although I honestly want to emphasize a lot, I use Perplexity AI, which is very good, and it gives you the information in a much more condensed way. Also, AI, any type of chatbot like ChatGPT or Perplexity, they translate documents for you.
Yes, they do.
So whatever you think you need, you can always, use that. The other thing is, this is something that I use very often. It's called Notebook LM. It's amazing. It's through Google. So if you have a Google account, you can go in, and any documentation that you have that is too long to read, if you have a student or one of your kids are going to college and they have PowerPoints that it just is very tedious for them to read, put them in, upload them in the Notebook LM, and it's going to create a podcast.
Oh my God.
And however, once again, prompting, very important. So you have to tell what exactly you want the podcast to talk about, the PowerPoint. Like, for instance, when if I have a PowerPoint on outcome evaluation, I tell the AI, when I'm writing the prompts, like, I'm looking for like the definition of outcome evaluation, provide a real life example, do the 3 takeaways, and explain in depth the logic model and theory of change. So I'm telling them based on my PowerPoint, which is my content, what to do with it, and then do not exceed of more than maybe like 15 minutes. So it shouldn't be longer than 15 minutes. And then it takes about 20 minutes to do the podcast. That's when the AI is doing their thing. And then you listen to it. So listen to it, compare it with your notes. Do not 100% believe what AI is telling you, because sometimes it makes mistakes, and it makes really bad mistakes. So make sure, it's not perfect. So what I do is always go back, read, edit, and then put that video to my students so they have that as a resource. So you can utilize that as well. And there is a cool option using Notebook LM in which you can interrupt the podcast host and ask them questions live.
Oh my God, I love that.
So,
Oh my God.
and I'm taking a class on AI to create my own AI agents. That's coming up with Purdue University, and it's going to help me with my initiative. Oh, and one more thing. So we are waiting for the final stages of executing a new contract with Orange County to create an online class for nonprofits on AI.
Oh my God, I love that.
So that's coming up.
It's coming up. I'm so excited to share that. And not in there, but I did want to tell people one of my favorite, if you have a favorite prompt or favorite thing to tell, I have two. I love to tell ChatGPT, explain this to me like a toddler. Like if there's a big concept that I don't really understand, especially when it comes to finances, I teach people a lot about financial and writing budgets. I'm like, all right, before we get into into deeper, like explain this like do an activity like teaching this concept like a toddler. And then ChatGPT is very fluff. So I always say remove the fluff. That's what I say. Like if I'm gonna use ChatGPT to write something long. I don't know. Do you have a favorite prompt?
So no, I think that what I've done, I'm very specific. Like I was trained as an evaluator, so I'm very measurable and I write things to tell AI. So I'm always, wearing my evaluator hat. Like,
Yeah.
all right, so I want you to provide me 2 examples of this, define that, do 3 takeaways, and then do like real case scenarios. And when I say real case scenarios, depending on the audience, right? So for my undergraduate program evaluation class, I asked AI when I'm doing my podcast using Notebook LM, provide real life examples focusing on undergraduate students related to logic models, related how to do measurable objectives, or how to write evaluation outcome questions or process evaluation questions. So the target audience, and when in what I see from the podcast, it's specific information targeted to that audience. So it's kind of like tells you who, kind of like talking back to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Concha, for being a part, I guess, of
Absolutely.
Palatina Profits podcast. I've had so much fun learning about what you're doing. I can't wait for you to see what you're going to do. So make sure you find her on LinkedIn or look at her YouTube channel that she shared with us, and we'll make sure to link it when we post this episode. But I'm your host, Dr. Andrea Ortega, and thank you so much for listening or watching the Palante Nonprofits podcast.